Once upon a time, there was a curious little girl named Alice. She loved to explore and discover new things. One sunny day, Alice was playing in the garden when she saw a white rabbit with a pocket watch. The rabbit looked worried and said, "Oh dear, I'm late." Then he hopped away quickly. Alice, being very curious, decided to follow him. She chased the rabbit through the garden and saw him jump into a large rabbit hole. Without thinking, Alice followed and found herself falling down, down, down the rabbit hole. She landed softly in a strange and magical place called Wonderland. Alice looked around and saw the most amazing things. There were talking flowers, singing birds, and trees that looked like they were dancing. As she walked, she came to a tiny door. The door was too small for her to go through, but she found a bottle labeled "Drink Me." She took a sip and suddenly shrank to the perfect size. Now small enough, Alice walked through the door and found herself in a beautiful garden. There, she saw the white rabbit again. "Oh, hello," she said. But the rabbit just mumbled about being late and hurried away. Alice decided to follow him again and soon came to a tea party. At the table were the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and the Dormouse. They were having a very silly tea party with lots of laughter and funny riddles. "Would you like some tea?" asked the Mad Hatter. Alice sat down and joined them. She had never been to such a silly tea party before. The cups and teapots talked, and the plates danced. Everyone was having so much fun. They sang silly songs and told jokes that made Alice giggle. The Mad Hatter gave her a funny hat to wear, and Alice felt like she was part of their happy little group. After the tea party, Alice continued her journey and met a grinning Cheshire Cat. "Which way should I go?" Alice asked. The Cheshire Cat smiled and said, "That depends on where you want to get to." Alice decided to follow the path that led to the Queen of Hearts' garden. In the garden, she saw beautiful roses and friendly card soldiers painting the roses red. They explained that the Queen only liked red roses, so they had to paint them. Alice helped them paint, and they all laughed together, making the roses look bright and cheerful. But soon, the Queen of Hearts arrived. She was very bossy and loved to shout, "Off with their heads!" But Alice wasn't scared. She knew it was all just part of the fun in Wonderland. The Queen invited Alice to play a game of croquet. But this was no ordinary game. The mallets were flamingos, and the balls were hedgehogs. Alice tried her best and had a lot of fun, even though the Queen kept changing the rules. The game was chaotic and filled with laughter as the flamingos and hedgehogs made it tricky to play. Alice and the card soldiers couldn't stop giggling, and even the Queen started to smile a little. After the game, Alice found herself in a courtroom. The Queen of Hearts was holding a trial for the Knave of Hearts, who was accused of stealing tarts. Alice watched as the silly trial went on, with everyone arguing and shouting. It was very funny to see. The King of Hearts asked silly questions, and the witnesses gave silly answers. Alice couldn't help but laugh at how mixed up everything was. Suddenly, Alice remembered her home and wanted to go back. She closed her eyes and wished very hard. When she opened her eyes, she was back in the garden, safe and sound. It had all been a wonderful dream. Alice ran to tell her sister all about her adventures in Wonderland. She talked about the White Rabbit, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, and the Queen of Hearts. Her sister smiled and listened, happy to hear about Alice's exciting journey. They decided to play together in the garden, imagining they were in Wonderland once again. From that day on, Alice always remembered her magical adventure in Wonderland. She knew that with a little curiosity and imagination, every day could be an adventure, and she never stopped exploring and dreaming. Alice continued to have many more adventures, always looking for the magic in the world around her. She made new friends and discovered new places, all while keeping the spirit of Wonderland in her heart. And so, Alice lived happily, always ready for the next adventure in a world full of wonder and joy.